Welcome to the Listen to This Bull live show. My name is Matt Mulholland. I've got Eric Davison with Claim Titan here with me. This is the show that you get to participate in by asking us questions live, except we're not live today because I'm on the road. But I got Eric here and we're actually going to do a recorded version. And you know what? I think it'll be just fine because we're talking about software and things, and we might be able to show you some stuff, speed some parts of it up so it doesn't look like we're digging through things, and show you some cool stuff. What we want to do is talk about what kind of things that you should put in your claim management system, your CRM, your client resource management, client relationship management system, your claim resource man. Is there You know what? Let me just push this button and then I'll ask all these weird questions. Okay. Hey, Eric.
Hello. CRM. I call it whatever the client likes to call. I originally said claims management system, the CRM, client management, whatever you like. It does the same thing, right?
Claim manager is totally a CMS though. So it's weird to call it a CRM, but they've called these things CRMs for so long when it was really just maintaining your client's Rolodex and maybe a little bit of notes about them. And it's become so much more since then. So what I want to talk about for the show is what really needs to be tracked and what kind of information should go into one of these things, and not just the bare minimums, but what can be put in here that makes things useful for future claims and for managing a larger team or expanding or growing as a company. So before we get started though, since we're going to be talking about Claim Titan quite a bit, do you want to give a brief overview for anybody that has had their head in the sand and not heard of Claim Titan yet?
Sure.
What is
Claim Titan's a tool I built to help me when I was personally doing public adjusting kind of work. It's since then kind of grown a little bit out of the direct public adjusting space, but it's software to help you kind of do all the day-to-day tasks you do when you're managing claims, tracking your client's information, keeping track of paperwork, handling communications, all that stuff to kind of keep the ball rolling in one location, because we typically all do that stuff anyway, but we bounce it out through different sources, whether it's folders, notes, whatever. This is just kind of the same concept, but in one package.
That works. So there are a lot of things that you probably want to track with a CRM, but let's get the elephant out of the room real quick. Do you think that it is acceptable for a public adjuster in today's market to use a spreadsheet for their claims tracking?
I oftentimes get asked questions similar to that. And, I personally did use a spreadsheet for many years. And it kind of comes down to how many claims are you handling, right? Like, are you handling 2-3 claims a year as a hobby for your friends and family? Then a spreadsheet might do. But are you handling 2 or 3 claims a week? Maybe a spreadsheet gets a little hard to track everything that's going on.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is that there's a lot more information that should go into it than what a spreadsheet would be able to handle, unless you're just going to try to remember it all. And that's why the quantity matters. If you're remembering everything from your 1 or 2 claims, which I still think is dumb, but if you're going to do that, then maybe a spreadsheet isn't so bad. But otherwise, there's just so much information that occurs, so much stuff that happens that you really need to have something to put it all in. So this is something I think that might be shown.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, with the tracking of so much stuff, you can do so many things when you scale. So my company, All Good Adjustments, we were the largest PA firm in Georgia, and we had a lot of focus on what information was put into our CRM so that we could spit out reports that were useful to us as a company. And I think that is where we shined. Having sold that company and gotten behind the scenes with a lot of different PA firms, I have found exactly one other PA firm that has the level of detail in their tracking that we had. Only one, which might surprise you. It surprised the hell out of me. I didn't realize that we were as unique as we were. And it's really the only thing that I can honestly say that we were somewhat unique about. because there's so many things that PAs do. And we weren't the best at everything, but we were the best at that. I could say that full confidence. We were the best at that. So I want to talk to you about this because I love Claim Titan. I want to show it to you. I want to show off all the new features you guys got going on. But if you're not using Claim Titan, that's okay. As long as you're using something other than a spreadsheet, something that has, in my opinion, the most important portion, a diary system or a note system. So get yourself ready, Eric. I'm going to have you pop that up on the screen in just a second. What a diary system is some way of tracking what has occurred on a claim. You want to put a note in, you talk to the policyholder, you want to put in what was talked about. Maybe you're recording those calls, maybe you're not, doesn't matter. You want to have some kind of a record that it occurred. A diary system would have a date and time stamp and who put that note or that activity or whatever information in. And that's what makes it a diary, is it creates a timeline automatically for you. So every time you write an email, you want that to be in the system, and whoever wrote that email should be the person's there. If you're just making a note in the system about what your strategy is going forward or something, whoever wrote that note and the timestamp that they put it in. And we'll talk about what should be in your notes and what shouldn't be in the notes in a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and pull up Claim Titan so you guys can follow along with this CRM as we talk about what should be in all of them. And Eric, by the way, if there is anything that you kind of want to show off as we go through this, if you get a little bit excited and you really feel like you just want to, oh, I got to show you something. Maybe you get the jitters when you do it. I don't know. I don't know what you're going to be like. You know, maybe you get nerd energy and you're like, let me just show you this one little thing real quick. You just feel free to interrupt me and show it off. That's cool. I'm okay.
Sure. I think we have a couple things along the way we'll come across.
Okay. Do you get nerd energy, by the way?
I mean, I think the nerd energy is there late in the night keeping me up working on this thing.
That's called Monster energy drinks. All right, we got got your basic your dashboard, so to speak, without it being a dashboard, because nobody ever actually uses dashboards, by the way. So many software, whatever. You'll probably end up, doesn't matter. So I'd never used a dashboard before. Does anybody out there ever actually used their dashboard? You set it up one time, you put all these things you want on it, but do you ever look at it? I never did. I'm sure people out there must, but it was just one of those things. Anyway, so here's your set of claims. You can search for it. The beauty of this is you can search and then be able to find that claim. But sure. One thing that I think is important when you are putting stuff into a system is having a system that allows you to have a client that can have multiple claims, because that's going to happen to you. So if you're in a very basic system, maybe you're in Job Nimbus and they have a basic and a less basic version, but their basic version has one client per project. So they can only have one project at a time or one job at a time. And the job would be the claims. You want to get their deeper system that allows you to have multiple jobs per client or contact. So here's your client list. And it's got basic information here. Can you change what's on this set of columns?
Sure can. I have some that are provided by default, but I've actually since updated this that, are in control of changing what's available on your table here. And you can also customize the filtering and stuff as well. So I'm just trying to give you guys more control to kind of see what's there, because not everybody wants to see, every column that I have available.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is good. So when you start to look for a claim, whatever the claim might be, let's just pull up.
I got the sample one here. Is Cheddar Farms holding me being a Wisconsin cheesehead with a non-Wisconsin
you pull up this
picture.
claim and you've got all kinds of information here. You got your policy number, you got your insurance company, you got type of loss, the date of loss. All this information is at your fingertips. So when you're calling an insurance company, it's all organized pretty well, and it looks roughly the same per claim, so that you have an idea of where everything is. You don't have to scroll through a bunch of stuff. It's right there. On the right-hand side is the big important side. This is all the stuff that's happened. Now, every time you touch a claim, you should put a note in. If you get a phone call from anybody, there should be an activity response to that. So let's add an activity.
Sure.
Kind of an activity.
We had a call. In this list, I have some options here, but you're always welcome to customize these things too.
So we could talk about what actually happened on that call, what was said, right?
Sure can. You can kind of put whatever you'd like in here. Put some notes on there.
Really dumb. I made him look dumb. The poor guy started crying. Whatever you want to put into this thing, don't ever do that. Don't ever make an engineer cry. It's not pretty. And then you can save that in there, and that's inside your claim activity now. Now it's right there. Now anybody that logs into this claim, anybody from your team would be able to see that occurred. So now your customer gives you a call and says, "Hey, what's going on with my claim?" And you don't have to track down whoever the claim owner is to ask them what happened recently. You've got all that information right there. You can give them the update without having to wait. But wait, there's more. If you don't have the time to talk to them on the phone to give them the update, what about this portal system that gives them the access to that activity? There it is.
Absolutely.
So a claim
you can
type, you
choose
can
certain
click on this
actions
button and give them access. You can make it visible, whatever that was on the portal. And so if it's visible on there, then that's a note that you can put in. So you can have some internal notes where you don't necessarily need the client to be able to see that note. You can keep it off of the portal. You could also give a portal access to your referral partners or whoever it might be in different ways. So I think that this is a very important thing. Now, there's all kinds of activities you want to put in there. Every time you go out on site and visit and you do some kind of inspection, you want to put a note in about what it is that you found. If you don't put a note in about what you found, you just leave it as photos, inevitably, you're going to forget a lot of stuff because you can't take a photo of everything. You can't take a photo of a conversation you had with the policyholder while you were there. Your camera is falling very slowly, by the way.
Sorry about that.
I thought I had my share screen pulled up anyway.
Yeah. So if you put a note in about what it is that you found on site, you'll be able to do something with it. I think there's a lot of value to this. One of the things that I found out when as a public adjuster is our back end team, every now and then, the guys that were at the desk, they would hit a brick wall with the adjuster and they wouldn't be able to get anywhere with them. It's really frustrating for them to have to get back with you after they look everything over and suddenly they don't know half of what's going on. You want there to be cohesiveness. If it goes from one person to the next, and maybe you have yourself set up on some kind of a assembly line type approach for similar claims, you want the next person to know exactly what's going on and what's supposed to happen next. And you can't do that without those notes. Eric, I used to do a thing at the National Claims Institute where I would show off a random claim. I pulled up my old All Good system and I would ask somebody to throw out a letter, and they would throw out a letter, and I would go to that in the alphabet. I would go to that for one of my claims, and I would scroll and I say when, and they'd say stop, and wherever my mouse was, I'd click on that claim and I would open it up in the CRM that we had at the time because Claim Titan wasn't around. And we would go through the notes and I would start scrolling, and it might take 5 minutes to get to the bottom of the notes. That's how many notes we had on a regular claim.
But they're all there.
And they're all there. And there was so much information there. I have had 8,000 claims, give or take. I don't know the exact number. I don't think anybody could actually know the exact number because no one counts them when they're brand new. But I've had around 8,000 claims and a hell of a lot more claims that we actually inspected. That's how many claims we took on. And with 8,000 claims, even though I didn't go to attorney very often, litigation less than 1% of the time, how many, what's 1% of 8,000? You're a nerd.
Yeah, that's still a lot of notes there.
It's a lot, right? That's 8,000. I think that is
and that's if you're consistent with each file. You know, some of those
800.
files you get where you just have a day and you're just writing down paragraphs.
Yeah. All right, that 1% is 80. 80 claims go to litigation. Of those 80 claims, how many times do you think I should have been deposed? Most PAs would say the majority of them. I've been deposed twice. 8,000 claims. I've been deposed 2 times. And it's because when I get subpoenaed, I was able to print out all of our claim notes and send that over to the opposing attorney. And suddenly our attorney on our side, not our attorney, the policyholder's attorney was able to come to a resolution because we had good detailed notes. Anyway, I think that is extremely important for all of you PAs out there, I'm harping on this really hard because I think it's that important.
I totally
All right, so you
agree
got
with
claim activity. What else is up there? You got tasks. Tasks
Yeah,
are
the
good.
sidebar here is kind of like some things I'm using a lot to kind of track my progress along things. So tasks are like to-do items or things that we need to get done. So if I jump into one of my other ones I have here, Billy Bob's,
Billy
just a
Bob.
couple examples, like schedule an estimate, schedule an inspection, sign the contract, prepare it. So just kind of things that we need to get done. So between the combination of like what do we need to do on my task list and what have we done on the activity, that kind of covers both sides of that. Sometimes we would complete a task and then make an activity that we did such items.
I would definitely make an activity every time you complete a task. If you just hit the checkbox on that task, maybe you accidentally hit that checkbox. When I'm doing an inspection and there's no damage on the AC unit during a hail event, and I should be looking for spatter marks at a minimum, I'm still taking a photo of that AC unit to prove to myself that I did it. Because if I don't have a photo of that in there, then I'm going to think, did I even take or even look at the thing? Maybe I didn't. Maybe I need to go back out. So sometimes it's important to double up on information. I didn't take a photo of it. That means there was no damage or there's no spatter on it. But I did take a photo of it just to prove that I actually looked at the damn thing. So I could do the same thing by making a note. But anytime I do a task, I would want to put a note in there. I'm going to harp on this. Every time you touch the thing, you should put a note in. All right, guys, I'm very adamant about this. This is the one thing I know that if you took that one nugget away from all of my content, you would be 10 times better. All right. So we can put any kind of task, but these can be automated too. And I think it's important.
Absolutely. Because while I can come in here and add tasks off the list, sometimes you have that set of things you do on every single job. Every job needs to have a contract prepared and signed, right? So why would I want to go add that individually for 30 claims?
You don't want to do that. So have it automated, and you can have that assigned to different people based on the automation as well. There's times when you end up having too many tasks assigned to somebody and then they start ignoring them.
Yeah, that's when the notifications and the prompts kind of come into play. It's like, hey, this one's overdue.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, and you have to be able to click out of that. So in order to move on. So I know a lot of companies, they set up in their SOPs, they have to touch a file every so often. You can even set up those kind of timeframes in the task if you wanted to. There are a lot of CRMs that allow you to do this kind of a thing. Most CRMs have some kind of a diary system. Most CRMs have these tasks that can be automated. These are not special things that you find only in Claim Titan. They're everywhere. These are like your basic standard things, but it's not on a spreadsheet.
That's true.
So how do you keep track of what's going on there? All right, so we got schedule next. This is for
calendar
scheduling
system, if you will. So think about putting like inspection, meeting notes, follow-ups, whatever you want from the standpoint of a calendar. So, for example, just say we have an inspection coming up. We'll just put a date, say 7 a.m. or something coming up here. 2-hour inspection. We'll save that. Now I have a thing on my calendar. Now I know.
And it's right there.
The nice thing is that goes right into a calendar system in Claim Titan, so I can actually see that visually as well. And this calendar system can be imported or subscribed to in your other apps, so you can use your Google, your Outlook, Apple, and still get your alerts from Claim Titan.
I think this is a very important feature. It's something that I wanted to have in all of my CRMs early on. And there were a few CRMs that I decided not to stick with because they didn't have that feature. So I always liked it because I didn't want to have to open up multiple different things to see what the hell was going on. I wanted to have it all in system. It isn't 100% necessary to have your calendar inside your CRM. If you're going to have a CRM, you need to have certain basic requirements. I think tasks and diary are very basic. The calendar is a very good feature, but it can be considered a luxury feature because you can utilize other stuff for that. The discussion, is that for internal notes?
Yes. So the discussion, on the note of the calendar system too, with a lot of these features, I'm totally not trying to replace like these fully robust apps. If you have like, super advanced Google Calendar with these crazy filters, yeah, I mean, by all means, that's super awesome. But I mean, I can provide 90% of what you're looking for, and then you can fill in the rest with some of those things. But I totally agree. A lot of that stuff kind of like luxury based. The discussions, though, that is a newer feature. The discussion and the chat are both together, the same thing. But basically, it's an entire chat system. So up until now, people have kind of sent messages somewhat through like activity. Maybe they assign things to their other, adjusters
Yeah.
on the task list, or you can just like make a note. But there wasn't a really space to just have like a water cooler discussion or just like talk about the file. So that's what the chat system is. It's got a couple of layers to it. In this context, we're chatting about the claim file. So it's like, imagine, I don't know, we're at the water cooler talking about this claim. I just want to see what's going on and like, hey, John, where are we with this? And I can message fix out, and it's all under the context of this claim. So I know that we're discussing this claim file. So you can then go to the chat and you can then see direct messages with other people, or you can actually go into those claim chats you've had and see, oh, hey, here's this claim we were talking about. And one step further is that there's also chats available to your clients and referrers through their portal system. So not only can you chat on the claim, but you can also have discussions through Claim Titan that your policyholders and other people can see and keep record of as well.
This is a feature I've never had in a CRM, and I really wish I had. What a cool feature, especially being able to talk to the policyholder directly through that instead of through an email or something. So many people want to do texting and things at this point in time. They're used to that kind of a feature. This is great. And by keeping it separated from your activities, then this, I don't want to say it's 100% true because I'm not an attorney. And I'm sure every state's a little bit different, but potentially this could be separated out as internal documents and not part of the claim documents.
Yes.
So you could have internal strategies that are not subject to a subpoena or something along those lines on the specific claim, but very your internal IP, internal procedures and things that you can keep private. So for those companies that really care about this kind of a thing, and I know that there are a lot of you out there, this is a really good feature to have without having to worry about whether or not a certain checkbox is checked. So if you contact John, I don't know the answer to this. If you contact John in there, does he get a notification that he's got a message, or just show up on the side where it says chat? What happens?
Absolutely. There's a couple layers. So the chat system is working. The reason why I put the beta tag there is because I'm putting the bells and whistles on. So what's coming now is the ability to then tag John with a little like @ tag or stuff that you're commonly familiar with, and also doing maybe like some file attachments or tagging other things like tagging a job or tagging a policy holder. But yeah, absolutely. And on that note of like the discussion, that was the exact reason why I put this here. I thought of this as like, hey, we're passing by, we're having a discussion. This isn't necessarily something I want like record or recorded. It's something that like, I can remember and I can forget about later on. So think of discussions as like, it's something that we needed at the time, but it's not something that we're relying on to be there in like as a historical record. That's more what the status activity timeline for is, the notes. The discussion is just like, hey, we need to talk about this, within the context of this claim, but we don't necessarily want this to be all like, written to stone.
Tell you what, if I were to want to put together a strategy for a claim and give it to whoever's working that claim as a manager, this might be exactly where I put that. And then they'd still be able to click on that, open it back up and see what that strategy is without it being something that's subpoenaed in case I put something in there that I don't want the carrier to know that's what my strategy was for the claim. I don't want them to know that I've been walking them into coverage traps that I know that they're going to say no to if I don't do it like this, whatever it might be.
And so while I'm discussing with the team here, it's also nice, like I mentioned, to talk to your policyholder and stuff too. So where does that happen? Cool. If you click on the policyholder, I'm looking at their page now, and on the note of having multiple addresses, Billy Bob here does have multiple addresses under him. So you can have those policyholders that have multiple claims. It's actually multiple addresses and multiple claims per address if you choose. So. But here's their portal. So I enabled this portal for them, and I'll happily show you this here in a little bit. But this is a login for them to log in and see data on their claims. It's when we were talking about that activity timeline and sharing that stuff to them. The reason why I enabled this, though, is because if I go back into his claim file, if a policyholder has a portal enabled and you go to the discussion, now I have this policy portal chat section. So now here I can have a chat, and this is in the context of the claim, but it's visible to the policyholder. So here I can still message my team, and it's still private amongst us internally. But then if we still want to have a discussion, but the policyholder is able to see that, that's where this is too. So you choose where you want to have those discussions, but it's just another method of kind of communicating with them. And then this can be relayed to SMS text alerts, in the future. So that door is a possibility.
I think that's really cool. And keep in mind, if it is communication with the policyholder, there are many states where all of that is able to be subpoenaed. So no matter what you put in there, just assume that carriers defense counsel would be able to get a hold of that. Not that you guys have that much crap to hide. I'm just saying, just be careful. You can't. I wouldn't tell them how much their insurance company sucks in that. How about that?
Keep it professional.
Keep it professional. Don't be a dick. Even on your even in your notes and stuff. It's very important that you keep things professional so that you look good and they don't. And putting notes in there about all the things that the carrier did not do, or even, I'll be honest, I used to put the claim strategy stuff directly into the notes anyway that was subpoenaed. I enjoyed that part getting subpoenaed, because usually in my notes, I would say, okay, we're going to do this. And then they're going to say this, this, and this. And almost every single time that it went to litigation, they did exactly what I said that they were going to do. And because I don't know what it is they saw in my notes that made them think, let's not subpoena this or not depose this guy. Let's just pay this claim or whatever it is. Let's find a way to make this work. I don't know what it was, but I had very sensitive stuff in there all the time. And that was my strategy. But I got to show everybody what it was that they were going to do. And lo and behold, most of the time they were doing exactly what it is that we said. So that's a really cool system, though, for those companies that really are bothered by that idea. You can put some of the things into that discussion with your team, so you have that kind of strategy set off to the side. All right, so these are really good
to enable it. Yes.
Right. Another thing that a CRM can do that is extremely valuable in tracking a lot of claims is having a workflow built in. So let's talk about a workflow.
Certainly. And from my context of it, you can use whatever terminology you want. I call it a claim process, but it's the same thing, a workflow, a list of steps or statuses you're going to take your claim through. And that actually is a backbone kind of concept in the system. And when you get started with Claim Titan, as I jump into my back end here, there is a list of claim processes that you can manipulate. And I do provide one out of the box, very similar to this, which has some good boilerplate setting. You know, it's got the claim initiated, notifying the insurance, some inspection phases, negotiation, a good generalized starting point. But the idea is that you could come in here and change the name of these, reorder them, add steps, remove steps. But this should resemble what you do to handle a claim or a job.
I actually I built one in there myself. And I've been sharing that with some of my students that I teach public adjusting 101 to. And the steps they're easy to manipulate. They're easy to change. And anytime you have a step, it gives you the opportunity to add an automation. So whenever it moves to that status, it's a trigger point. There's other triggers, but this is one way of having a trigger point that could establish another new task or another email or whatever might go out automated. So with those, in my company, we had a ridiculous amount of status points. We called them statuses. We had a ridiculous amount of statuses in between everything, because we wanted to have our reporting break it down how much time we took on even very small things. And so if you think about your statuses as a reporting point as well, the more statuses you have, the more ways that you can track where the bottlenecks in your company are. Now, it's simpler to have less statuses, but if you are wanting to really grow, I think it's a good idea to have a lot just for those reporting procedures. But every time you change a status, it can trigger something. So think about what
that's super useful.
What do you normally do there?
And the statuses have so many different points, and like my activities are grouped by status it was in. So as I can see, during the inspection status, these things happened. During the final payment status, these things happened. And the status is nothing more than just, a marker.
Dude, that's cool. I did not see that before. That's really cool.
All done within the context of like, we have this job, we're taking it through this workflow. Because here's how I think about it, right? I have a workflow. A workflow is from start to finish, me taking a job and closing it. I take each step, and the first step, for example, being like evaluation. Are we going to even handle this claim? And what are those common things that I need to do? And I broke it down into like actionable items, which for me are tasks. But it's like prepare a contract, determine the validity of the claim, review those things, maybe get a welcome package. And then those things are all there. And that way we have everything set up to go. And that way each step or status, you know what needs to be done. The system can be told what needs to be done. And then it can kind of like track it along the way and show you like these things did get done in this status and what's next.
That's freaking sweet. I didn't realize that it did that. I've never seen, maybe there are others, but I've never seen another CRM that actually put that into the note system automatically, so you can see what status it was in without having to manually verify what date that was. That's actually really useful, dude. I'm surprised.
Whenever you add the activity, it tracks what the current status is. So that way, even if you jumped around statuses, it'll still know. Like it'll show like, hey, we were in the pending inspection, then we went to inspection. Oh wait, oops, we went back to pending inspection or something. It keeps that record.
There's system statuses, and a lot of times they put in their own system notes too. So on this date at this time, this person that was logged in changed the status to this. Does that get tracked in here too?
Yeah, so while you see activity in here, Claim Titan does log activity behind the scenes. I call it history or whatever, but it does automatically log things for you too. Like if you move the status of a claim from one status to another, it'll make a note that, Eric moved the claim Cheddar Farms to pending inspection. It makes those little notes for you as well.
Sweet. All right, so our workflows can be set. We can change what they are for every status. You can have different workflows. How do I switch from one type of workflow or claim flow to another?
That's an important concept. So I'm going to eventually have a way to actually like switch the process out. So in my case here, I do have like 4 different processes. One's like a standard. I do have an appraisal and an umpire process and then a test one. Now, when you start a claim, the one thing that you choose during this claim process that's really important is that process. So here's that process choice. So currently, this is the only piece of information that you can't update when you start the claim. And the reason for that is because this process, even though the steps are like the first layer to it, there's a bunch of other things that you can actually bake into a claim process, a workflow, like a folder structure. That way, every time you create a claim with that process, those folders are created for you automatically. Or even those task items, you can have all those task items created for you on every single claim. So because of all those other things behind the scenes, if I were to take a claim and try to move it from one process to another, there's a lot of complexity behind like, do I then retroactively apply these default tasks? What happens to the old ones? There's a bunch of interesting things there. So I will eventually allow you to switch from one process to another, but it's more important to set up your processes beforehand to account for that kind of stage. And by that, I mean, I have one mega process, if you will, that has everything from evaluation all the way to closing the claim, and then even steps for like appraisal, litigation, those are in there because I'm taking a claim and I don't know if it's going in those. So my process accounts for all those steps. But then I do have a separate process just for appraisal or just for umpire work. And that can then have its own set of default structures and stuff. Because when I take a claim on knowing it's going down that route, then I can tell the system to do so. So that's the important thing to note about the processes is that you can set them up and customize them. It's not something that you just like do these steps in this process, then switch to another process. Your process should kind of encompass start to finish all the different statuses that you go through. And it doesn't have to be linear. Even though I'm showing you here like pending and we kind of can walk through in a status, doesn't mean that it can't jump from one stage to the other or go back. It's just that your workflow should account for all those possible scenarios in like a web or a tree of different possibilities.
Yep. We've done a workaround so many times with other CRMs where we just have a workflow that has, we have steps 1 through 10 that you might normally do. But if there's a slight change on it, then there's a number 11 is actually there's a completely different workflow, and it goes 1 through 10. That's slightly different. And we would tie them to different types of claims. So if we had a fire loss, it had a different workflow than a hail and wind claim that was roof only. And we had a different workflow for claims that we got involved in after first offer from the carrier, and a workflow for claims that we got from the very beginning where we had to file the claim ourselves. So different kinds of statuses can accommodate for a lot of those. If you know what you're getting into when you put it into the system, then you can have that set up. But if it could be 1 or 2 different things, it might be better to have a little buffer in there. But it's either way. They're very, very useful to have because it can help a new guy know what's going through. But really, it's all about that automation and reporting. If you can track how long it's been in a status and whoever was in charge of the file at that time, then you can identify where your bottleneck is in your system and then work towards resolving that bottleneck to speed things up. So if you guys are getting a lot of volume, that's the kind of thing that you want to look at as a manager is where are these bottlenecks? Why are there bottlenecks there? Do I need to give my team more tools to be able to work through that system or that step faster? Or is it that you just have somebody that's very, very lazy that's involved in that step? There's a lot of things that you can uncover by having good reporting. So I think it's very important that you have that in there. And it's one of those things that's kind of baked into most CRMs. This is not a unique thing to Claim Titan.
Sure.
Having the ability to edit that workflow and have multiple isn't in all of them, though. So keep that in mind. All right. So we've got ourselves some kind of a claim. There is a loss. There's a lot of claim details on this page. Certain claim details are important to track. And a lot of times we have to manually input some of this information. I think for every claim, you should be tracking certain time frames on things. I was talking to Eric before this. This is something you'd have to manually put in because you need to actually verify it. It should not be an automated thing that goes into the system. It needs to be manually put in. And that basically is suit limitation period. How long do you have before you have to file suit? Because that's your freaking deadline. If you don't have that tracked and you bypass that, then you could be sued against your errors and omissions for not giving the policyholder the information they need. They lose a lot of leverage at that point. So we want to be able to track when is that dead point, that deadline. So I had Eric put together a custom field for his files. I'm going to,
because you see that I do have certain fields and dates that are tracked here, but if you ever find that there's something that is missing, you can actually set up any number of custom fields yourself, whether it's a date, a checkbox, a text field. So that's what we did. We set up a custom field. And if I scroll down here, we can find that field here at the bottom.
So we called it a SOL, which is for statute of limitations, which is kind of a misnomer because we're not necessarily telling you what the statute is, which is usually just going to say 1 year, 2 year, or 3 years. That's the statute. But the suit limitation period is the suit limitation date is the last date that you could file suit. Now, keep in mind, for all you PAs, every state's a little bit different on this. But if you want to have as much leverage as possible when going into litigation, then you need to follow the rules for the state. A lot of states require you to file some kind of a demand for payment within a certain period of time before filing suit, maybe a civil remedy notice, something along those lines. So if it's in the state of Georgia, we had a 60-day demand for payment that needed to be sent in before filing suit, or we would never have the ability of getting bad faith. And if we didn't have the ability of getting bad faith, even though we'd never get it, ever, never, ever, because that state is horrible, but we lose a lot of leverage if we don't have that. So we had to take our deadline and move it back 60 days. And then we had to buy time for the attorney to get all of their ducks in a row to be able to file the paperwork. So we gave the attorney 30 days. So our suit limitation period might be 2 years from the date of loss for that peril in that state. Well, we have the date of loss. We could add 2 years to that, but then we were removing 3 months from that and putting our deadline at the 1 year, 9 month period. And that was our deadline. And when we hit that date, then we needed to make sure that the policyholder was aware that that deadline was here, and maybe it was a good idea for them to start talking to an attorney. And so we would give them plenty of notice on that kind of thing. So that's something that's very, very important for you to track on every single claim. I'm going to make sure that Eric doesn't know it yet, but I'm going to require that he makes that more of a hardline thing that everybody has. So it's one of those.
I mean, we've got some dates in here.
Tracking.
I do have a statute deadline in here.
Yeah. There it is. Statute. Oh, you already got it going on. There it is.
Yeah. So just want to let you know, I do have certain things baked in there, and I'm always open to interpretation. While I do let you guys build your own fields, if there's good argument for things to be put in there, I have no problem. Obviously I can't foresee every field for every different job, and I'm always open to like, hey, this is an important field that we'd like to have tracked and have it like
those in there. It does show up at the top of the claim details somewhere.
Yes, actually, I had this one in here. Area. I'll save this. Now we have two because I have the custom field. But if I just save that, I have the statute deadline right here.
Oh, it's right there. That whole time. I was just calling
so much stuff that gets hidden. Yeah. And so again, I'm open to things.
it.
People can always tell me.
Yeah.
But there's room for
Now-
lots of things because then we could automate that date. It could be like, from the time of claim creation, add 1 month, 9 days, and we could have that populated. There's lots of
I
room
love that
for
it
fun.
has it has the clock on it next to it too, because there are some policies in some states that specify at 12:01 a.m. kind of a thing. So it is kind of cool that that's there. But it's a good idea, I think, that as a company to decide to backtrack that date to where your cutoff point is, you need to hand it off to an attorney and not the exact deadline, because inevitably someone new isn't going to know or isn't going to realize that that's what's going on. And you're going to bypass that date as you hand it off to an attorney 3 days later thinking you had time. Don't do that. Definitely backtrack that up or backdate it to the right limitation for your company. So, all right.
It's always good to
we
have
got all
buffer
this
too.
claim information. If they've got ABC Insurance Supply Company, and I want to see what else ABC's Insurance Supply Company has claim-wise, how do I
You actually have a
do
list of your
that?
insurance companies. So anytime you add one, you just have them right in there, and you can view lots of data about it. So here's actually notes that I have about them. I have some details about all the contacts that are assigned to that company. I can see different branch locations if they had some, and here's actually all the claims that they're handling too.
And now I can click on one of those claims if I wanted to, and I can look at the notes from that claim when dealing with that insurance company, because they've got all the claim activity over there. And these are fake files, so a lot of these aren't going to have any data in them at all. But that's the idea, is I can see all that. Now, if I got an adjuster on a claim and I wanted to see notes that I have about that adjuster.
Absolutely. So let's just jump back into our insurance
Go back to
company.
the cheddar claim real quick.
I got
oh, so here's your
examples in
company
here.
contacts. Here's Jake from
ABC Insurance
whatever
Company.
insurance company.
Here's
Oh, look
my
at your
notes.
note.
Jake always
Jake
settles.
always
like
settles.
Jake.
I like that.
But yeah, you could put notes on the guy. That way, as you're dealing with those guys and having that relationship, hey, maybe want to write a note about his dog and follow up with them just to be friendly. It's nice to have that record of stuff.
And at the
we
very
have the
least, I can
assigned
click on
claims.
any of the other claims that he's been assigned to, and I can go back and I can read up what I put in my claim activity for it.
But it's nice because it's all linked up.
Say again?
It's really nice because it's all linked up, because then you have that record between all of them. So then at any point in time, you can look for
things ever. So there's a lot of PA firms that they have this capability in their CRM maybe, but they don't utilize it. And so you've got the adjuster and you don't even put their contact information in. But if you did, and you had a system like Claim Titan that would allow you to, where you can click on that contact and then pull up that adjuster's information and keep tracking notes on him. And you can have notes on him, and you can see every claim that you've ever had with him, and you can keep a record of that adjuster. They're keeping records of you for a reason. You could do the same thing with them. And now you've got a brand new guy that's going to go meet with this adjuster for the very first time, and he doesn't know what he's getting into. You could try to remember all the things that occurred with that adjuster over the years and give him a heads up. This is what you ought to do with this guy. This is how he is. You should be nice to him. You should do this, whatever. Or you could just send him to your CRM and say, hey, go look him up. Which one's faster for you as a manager? All right, so I'm in a claim. I can look up the adjuster. I can look up the engineer. I can look up the insurance company. I can look up anything that's attached to that, and I can see notes about those things, right?
Absolutely.
And now
I can my contact book.
I don't have to duplicate effort. I don't have to try to remember as much. I mean, if you're like me, you have a horrible memory anyway. So this is very, very useful. You've got all kinds of information here, different insurance personnel. You've got desk adjusters. You can follow up on, talk about who it is that you're dealing with. You can actually assign them as a desk adjuster or a field adjuster, your external contacts. You have your engineer, different vendors in here. All of these guys have trackable information. This is what makes for a good CRM program, being able to follow up on all these and keep notes as you go, so you don't have to remember this shit. I can't tell you how many times someone has called me and asked, hey, have you ever dealt with this guy before? And I'm like, hang on a second. I'll look up his name. It's like, yeah, I've dealt with him 17 times. He's got and I'd go through my own notes. I wasn't using Claim Titan at the time, but I built out a lot of these different systems, and this was one of the most useful things ever. I would be able to tell my colleagues what to expect from XYZ adjuster or this insurance company or that insurance company. Anytime I got detailed insider information that I needed to know about that insurance company, guess what I did? One, I put it into the claim activity, but I also went directly to the insurance company's contact and I put it directly in there. And then I went to the adjuster's contact and I put it in there. Now, I didn't have to write the same note 3 times. I can copy paste, but it's there in all of those places. And so I have access to that really quick. On top of that, files. Let's click on the files tab real quick.
Certainly.
Now you got all this stuff, and you said that when you put it in, you put a workflow in, it can actually create a set of folders for you automatically. And that's really
Sure.
cool.
Because
Because
we
if you
obviously have a
same
format.
setup, yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say you probably have a format you follow, like most of us do. Maybe have a folder for all your documents, one for all your photos, whatever. But why go again? Same with the task concept. Why go to every single job and add it in individually when you could just tell the system that way? Anytime you handle a job, it's just there. There's no question about it. That way, when you have other people working on the files, like, did you create this folder? Did you put it in there? It's like, no, it's just there. They just kind of follow that cohesiveness.
Yeah. And if you have it set up that way and you know from one claim to the next, it's always going to be the same way, then it's easy to know where everything should go. And you can edit what these files are. This is all something that is customizable for you. And I think it's a really good system. And is there a backup to these that goes anywhere?
Yeah, so all the files, everything on Claim Titan's backed up every 24 hours, and it's backed up in multiple locations. So should anything ever happen, like the data we'd ever lose is up to 24 hours, right? But like there's backups of all these things in place where it could all easily be restored.
And I'm sure that you could probably have it tied into like a Google Drive or something along those lines that you can back it up manually if you like. So having your own backup, especially with claim files, I think is an important thing. The states require you to maintain a certain amount of these records for so long as well. If you're not acting as a PA for 5 years, you don't want to have to pay for Claim Titan for 5 years after you're done with it. So having a backup of your own in Google Drive to maintain those files is good anyway, not just for backup purposes or RAID purposes.
And on
so
that
those
note,
files
you
are
can
there.
export it. So like if you ever want to get data off Claim Titan, I make ample ways to do so. I'm not here to lock anybody into my system. If you, for whatever reason, don't like it, want to move on, let me know. I'll get you all your stuff personally, so that way you don't feel like I'm stuck in this guy's platform. But there's multiple ways I even put in your hands. Exporting is great on that note. You can get a PDF report of all the data, like the notes, the activity, everything. And you can choose all those folders and get a nice zip file of all that. So here you can quickly get archives of your files and put that into a folder and say, here you go. Here's a cover page with all the details of it. And here's all the files. Put it in an archive and save it for later.
Also, if you want to hand a claim off to an attorney, everything that he just did just right there, that's what my subpoena file would look like. I would just spit out a PDF of all the notes and everything that's attached to it. If they're subpoenaing you, then you got to give them everything anyway. That was one hell of an easy way to do that. That took you like 10 seconds. That would have taken me about 10 minutes.
Here's everything on the file you just went over. So here's all those contacts. Here are the settlement numbers. Here are the payments. There's my expenses I recorded. And it's all linked too. So you can go on the side and click stuff to jump around. So I got my contacts, my expenses.
My God.
There's the activity. There's all the activity logged. Again, you can choose what's available. So if you don't want to include certain things, you don't have to. But emails, how many emails have you gone through and printed out and exported, right? Now you can just quickly export all those emails in one big batch without having to go to each individual email and click print. That's the biggest thing for me, is saving that time just doing the busy work when I want to be focused on closing the claims.
It sounds stupid, but that is probably one of the coolest features right now to me. I'm boggled with the amount of time I would have saved by having this feature here. This is cool. Bloody hell.
It doesn't stop there too, because that's one report for that. But I know that people want to get reports for different things too. So on the note of the files section, I do have a photos section that will be available soon. If I jump into one of my test files here. So there's a whole new photo system.
Really cool. You were showing me this a little bit earlier.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about this. So there's now the capability to store your photos in the system. You still can put them in the document section. That's where it was prior, and Claim Titan handles it. But there wasn't this like fancy way of navigating through them. I did make like a nice way to like slide through them, but there should have been a standalone section for photos, and I've been kind of trying to handle that photos in general, though, are kind of a behemoth. There's like sizing restrictions and all that kind of stuff. But now you can upload your photos. You have a nice gallery. You can look through them. You can actually make notes and captions live on them and save that information on here. But that's really nice about the yeah. But what's nice is that you can make the notes of the files, have them selected, and then again exporting that off into a nice package that's available. So this is kind of like, I don't know, an inspection report or something along those lines, if you would. But just another way of exporting that data, so you can give them all the photos into a zip archive, or maybe you want to generate a nice PDF package that again has the files in there linked up with the captions.
Yeah,
and I also
let's say
link
you
them up
want
to
to
a live
put together a photo report with like 400 photos on it. That PDF is going to be massive unless the photos get super compressed. But that's not that big of a deal with Claim Titan.
Yeah. So I've tested this out with up to 400 photos, and I got my PDFs to about like 20 megabytes, because I think it's like 20 to 25 megabytes is the limit for
That's the
emails,
cutoff, right? For a lot of
it's
them.
not a restriction by a company. It's just emails in general. That's the technology's restriction. So it's just hard to get around. So what happens? Well, like Google, for example, you upload a large file, they actually upload it to like your drive and just attach a link, right? That's kind of how the process goes. So I had done something similar where basically I can keep the report under 20 megabytes, and I have to do some manipulation to the images, but the images are all linked up to high resolution copies that are available too. So that way, should they ever want to inspect it further or get access to those, they can. Or you could just get a zip archive of all the folders, give them the PDF report, and be like, also, here's a zip archive of all the high resolutions too. So there's no question about it.
But for these, if you wanted to zoom in on it and it was really small, you just click on the image and it pulls up the full resolution photo right there from your system. So all the really metadata is still there. It's all there. The zip drive idea is not bad if they're really questioning you on it, but the ability to do that, especially if you had like 4 photos per row or something along those lines, so it got real small. This is a problem for a lot of apps that I've seen that use photographs. If you can't click on that image and pull up the full resolution, then there's a problem. That is a very good feature.
I've been very excited about that. And so obviously you can caption them, put notes on them. There's the searching through the photos that you can then do different ways of organizing them. But this is really nice too, because again, I'm not trying to replace huge photo apps out there, but this now opens the door to have a foundation to now make that integration much more seamless. So I'm happy to.
So integration with Company Cam might happen very soon. Things along those lines. I love Company
Absolutely.
Cam.
I would love to connect now. And now I got a place to kind of receive that data.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so we've got all that. We've got all of our files. We've got all of our photos. We've got the insurance companies. We've got the contacts. We've got the tasks. We've got the notes. But we don't have any way yet of dealing with the money side of it, because we are a business. Now we got accounting. This is the fun part for all of you nerds out there. We're going to talk about money. There's a lot that's going on in here, though, but it seems like it's fairly well organized. So you got this summary here with different offers from the carrier.
I try to break it down into the layers, right? Like, what's the first layer? It's the insurance company and the policyholder, right? The insurance company is owed money. The policyholder is supposed to receive it. Let's track that at the very first level. And that's what the first like 2 buckets here are. And you have this concept of carrier offers. It used to be called settlements in my system. They're still the same thing. I'm just trying to make the terminology more coherent. But basically the idea is that how much has been negotiated and offered by the insurance company. This is somewhat after negotiation and estimating. This is kind of like what's been agreed on. And just because they agreed on the amount doesn't mean they've paid it. That's where the check layer comes in. The checks is then how you show, have we actually fully recovered that amount? So just to kind of jump in as a fun example, I will put in a quick sample here. We'll just say for the dwelling, they're giving us a full $10,000 replacement cost on here. Say we got $2,000 in depreciation, and maybe they're holding another $3,000 in recoverable depreciation. We'll forego a deductible and prior payment just for simplicity. But here you go. Now Claim Titan knows that there's $5,000 and net offers on the table. There's another $3,000 if we get the recoverable depreciation. So there's a total $8,000 available on the table for this client. They have not received any of that money though. So that's kind of where that layer ends. that's where then the checks comes in. Have we actually received any of that money or gotten any of that payment in? So then it's like, okay, great. They sent us a payment. Maybe they released the initial payment. They gave us that $5,000. Great. So I can store that in the system. I have my check numbers, notes on the numbers. And then this is important to note. You tell the system how those funds are being applied. Are they being applied to that base amount? Are they being applied to the recoverable depreciation? And why is that? Well, because what if I had multiple coverage options? What if I had coverage for the other structures and the personal contents? And what if they split that check up? Or what if they group the check together? There's so many scenarios. It's nice that you have that opportunity to say this check was for this amount and it covered these things. So in our case, we have one check. It's $5,000. It's covering our base amount on that. Save that. Now we show that we've recovered that full $5,000 available. Go back to our offers. We can see some of those numbers reflected. That's layer one. So that's how much are we dealing with the provider and how much have they actually paid out. And that's just a loan right there. That's really useful to have. But we know that it doesn't stop there because then services were rendered and we need to collect fees on that. And that's where then it really gets fun because as I came from a PA standpoint, a lot of stuff was usually contingency based. You know, there's people in Louisiana that work hourly. There's other people that work on supplemental increases. So that's a real fun wheelhouse too. But Claim Titan accounts for a lot of those scenarios. And that's where like level 2 of tracking kind of comes in, if you will. So it's like we have how much was exchanged between your provider and the policyholder, but then how much are we going to get off of that for a receivable company fee? So the fees at the very simplest form could be just a percentage. So let's say 10%. And by default is usually the amount of money that we've handled. So we've had $5,000 exchange hands so far, and we're entitled to 10% of that for our contract. Maybe there's different ways you want to structure that though. Maybe it's just a flat rate fee of $1,000 you're charging. Maybe you worked hourly and you're going to calculate that out. You can do any number of scenarios in here. And I used to have it just for the percentage of the payments, but the fun thing now is you can kind of choose where that percentage gets calculated. So maybe you want to apply that amount to the full RCV. Maybe you're a person writing estimates and you bill 2% of the total amount you estimate out. All those scenarios can be covered now, but this allows you just to put that fee in there. So that way the system knows how much are you now expecting to receive as a client, right? Of this, or from your client, I should say. But that's like the first layer. And then we get to the next layer. So how much has exchanged between the carrier and the policyholder? And now how much are we expecting to receive from that job? And again, just because we're expecting to receive that doesn't mean we've actually received that amount yet. So that's where then the invoicing comes in. And again, I know there's a lot of layers here, so I'm always happy to review these things more in depth with folks. But it's just kind of nice to think of a couple of different layers. Like how much has gone between the policyholder and the carrier? That's one thing. How much are we going to collect off that as a fee? That's another thing. And then again, say maybe we make $500, $1,000 on this job. Are we taking that full $500 home as a company? Probably not, right? There's engineer reports, there's gas, there's commissions, there's expenses, there's hours to pay. You can also track that stuff in here too as well. And again, that breaks down into percentages and all that fun stuff. But at the end of the day, you're left with this nice breakdown of like how much was expected from the carrier, $8,000. How much have they received? Oh, only $5,000. Here's that one check. How much are we supposed to get paid as a company on this job? $500. Is it our true take home? Let's go see. There's commissions, expenses, time to pay, and then how much is going to the policyholder after all said and done. But all those different scenarios can be tracked in here. And you can track them in multiple ways, whether you're handling a full claim or maybe you're just increasing the value of a claim and billing on the increased total. You have lots of scenarios in here. This is by far one of the more complex features of the system.
I can't tell you how many hours my business partner and I put into trying to develop what you've got there for CRMs in the past to make it work and actually work. Oh my God.
This works for me and most people. I'm not saying I've got the silver bullet, right? I'm not perfect. My software is not perfect, but please, I try to get close to what people need. I'm always open to people's interpretation and feedback. Again, I've not done every single job out there. So you probably have a billing structure that I've not encountered. Let me hear about it.
No, I mean, what you've got here is so simple, and it's, oh my God, I can't wait to call my old partner and just have her go through this real quick because she's gonna freak out. She's like, God damn it, Why is it so easy?
Like, for example, a supplementer. That was such a hard thing to track, right? Like, what if you're supplementing a job and you're increasing it by $10,000? How does that work? So you can even do that in here. So let's just say that we had a client. They were previously offered $10,000. Whether they took it or whatever, we don't know. We're not involved in that money. That's not involved in our contract. What we are involved in is increasing the value of the job. We took this on, we got a supplemental job. Again, let's do nice round numbers. Let's just say we got a flat $20,000 as the new RCV. So we've increased $10,000 on that value. So what if you're getting paid a contingency off that? Well, the system needs to know you're only billing on that or that $10,000, not that full 20. It does now, because you can track whether it was an initial offer, whether it's supplemental, or whether it's just a standard kind of like offer that you're going after. It now knows that, hey, there was a previous amount in there, and it totals that up. So as I break it down in here, it shows me, hey, here's that $10,000. Here's the plus $10,000 for our new final total of 20. And now we just have that $10,000 on the record. Why is that important? Because now when we go to add our checks and our fees, it's not expecting 20, it's expecting the 10, right? So then when I go to calculate percentage, say we're getting 10% of that, I can come in and show how much is the true value that we're collecting off that. Here's my net settlements is 10,000, or I could go off the full $20,000. But now you can bill on supplemented jobs. You can bill on jobs that you're doing, estimated values on. You don't have to just bill contingency PA style jobs. It's the door's open, whatever you'd like.
It's wide open. That as bad as it is, that is probably the coolest feature in your program.
It's the most daunting to build, I'll tell you honestly.
The information you can extrapolate from this one section in order to keep your business up and running properly is enormous. I mean, knowing your true profitability per claim is very important in order to track how many claims you need to bring in versus how many you take on versus what it is that you make on a regular basis, how much your initial amount is, how quickly you get paid that initial amount versus how much the final amount is. There's a lot of things that go into having a large company that you need to have the information for. This is the simplest way I've ever seen of tracking that. And the layers thing is so much simpler to think about it on. Dude, well done.
Well, thank you.
Bravo,
I spent a long time thinking about it, and I had a lot of times of just like, is this right? I don't know. A lot of this is based off feedback too. Like, I'm not a supplementer. I haven't done a lot of supplementing jobs. I don't bill by the hour, so a lot of people come to me like, this is how we do things in our company. Can you help us? And like, I'll do my best.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's so simple though. And it's easy to read and understand on top of all that. And the color coding that you have in here. And you've always been good about the UI.
And now you can, the next layer to that is now I'm going to work on a financial dashboard. So then you get high level pictures of like, hey, how's our company doing this month?
Accounts receivable as a whole.
You can jump into any individual file and see them, and it's really great because like, hey, we're getting $1,000 on this, but oh wait, we're actually losing 73 because we have commissions, expenses, time to pay. So it'd be nice to then see that on a grouping for like a month, and then I don't know, maybe doing fun trending numbers like where are we projecting the next 3 months to go. I mean, there's so many fun things we can do now that the data's there.
That's freaking awesome. I wish I had that in my system. God, you would have saved us so much friggin' time. I'm mad. I'm actually a little bit mad about it. You weren't there when I needed you, Eric.
Where were you, man? I needed you, man. You should have been there prompting me.
All right. Emails, I think, are the last thing that we really have to focus on. This isn't something that is that horribly important to do, but it is a convenience factor. If you can send out emails from within your CRM that attach to the claims that you're emailing about, it's a lot easier to deal with. And if you have automations tied to emails that are automatically sent out to certain parties based on different triggers, that is very useful. Worst case scenario, you need to be able to copy paste your emails into your activity logs. But if it's built in and you're doing it through the system, then it's automated. It's automatically getting into your activity logs.
And you can go to your email inbox, download them as a PDF, upload them that way. It's totally up to you. But one of the convenience that I provide is claim email. And then basically if that email is included on the conversation at any point in time, it'll just store a copy of what it received. So here's like a test email that I sent through. It just copies all those contents of that email and saves a record of it for you, which then you can go and reply through the system. So again, I'm not here to replace your email client, right? I'm not here to make the next big Gmail, but what's the benefit of having an email system in here? Well, there's certain pieces of data that Claim Titan knows about that Gmail doesn't, right? Like the policy number, the claim detail, maybe some files. So then that opens the door for, I don't know, like templates where now I don't have to type this welcome email over and over again. You know, I can have things that are boilerplated in there where it's like, hey, policyholder first name, here claim number, and all that stuff's good to go. And I don't have to type this every time too. I have a preset list of templates. Maybe I want to include a section about the claim details. It's just typed up, ready to go. So I can just go on talking about my message. And then at this point in time, I want to include this section, inserts it, go down the next page, talk to the next thing. So
You
there's
can add
a lot of
multiple
fun things.
templates of the same email.
Yes, it just inserts
Oh
that
my
text at a
God.
time. So you can break it apart and use it and manipulate it however you want.
I love your
Again,
program,
just fun
dude.
little things to make your life easier. Because again, I personally went through a lot of these pains. My background is software, but I also worked in the field, and I know that I personally had these issues. And I was like, I need a better way. And the opposing parties oftentimes have the same tools, so why shouldn't we have an equal, equal opportunity to compete with them and focus on the claim, right? Why do we get lost in the paperwork and the business stuff? Why can't we both have the same level of like tracking and then just go to argue on what's important in the policy?
I mean, the more stuff you track, the better things are going to be for your future claims, and there's still a lot of room to grow with the software and as a company. But either way, just so you guys are aware, this is my favorite CRM that is available for public adjusters today. I'm gonna kill your page real quick.
Sure.
Well, I don't want to kill it. That's my favorite. And there's a reason that Claim Titan is a sponsor of the show, is because I believe in the software, and Eric has been so good about implementing any changes that I've asked him to and making it easy for me to help my students utilize that software by accessing different workflows that I've created into it and different things. So a great human being and very eager to be helpful. I know you and your team are making wonderful strides on this, and it's always getting better. But man, the accounting side, I remember when you were talking to me about it for the first time, that really came together, dude.
Yeah,
You
it's
knocked
fun to
that out
see
of the
how far
park.
things have come in the past couple of years. Because again, I use this for myself for many things, but a lot of that stuff's based off what folks are telling me. Like
Yeah,
I do a lot of supplementing work, and this would be really useful for us.
very cool. Well, we're gonna do something that I don't ever get to do. I got to talk about our sponsors, but since you're here, why don't you talk about Claim Titan real quick?
Well, thanks. Since we already have talked about for the past hour or so, Claim Titan is a CRM. If you're an insurance claim specialist, I originally built it for public adjusters. Obviously, it's open to a lot more possibilities now. If you're looking for a way to track your data and stuff in there, please give it a shot. I am available. You're going to call me behind the scenes. Right now, it's a team of me. I'm the guy that picks up the phone. I'm the customer support, but I'm happy to take your notes and help you out. And I enjoy it. I like doing this.
And you don't sleep, which helps out. And if you guys give him hell and tell him you want the Matt Mulholland special, he'll hook you up too.
That's right.
All right. We got that. We got the Building Experts Institute, which is an online school, go at your own pace courses that are beautiful, like masterclass. There's a lot of really fully in-depth, fully comprehensive courses that are on there. I'm one of the owners of this company. Go to buildingexperts.institute, check that out. It's got all kinds of stuff, including claims handling stuff, how to do inspections, Xactimate level 1, 2, or 3. There's a lot. And there's stuff coming out all the time. And it's on a membership program for only $109 per month. So it's cheap enough that
it's worth it.
Yeah, it's honestly, it should be 20 times the price. Everyone says that too. Hook Agency, if you are a roofing company watching this and you need help marketing, Hook Agency has the hookup. That should be their tagline.
Hey,
I'm gonna have to tell them. Yeah, they have what you need. They are very good at what they do, and they are specifically only tailored for roofing contractors. So take a look at the Hook Agency, American Policyholder Association. If you like policyholders, if you think that they're cool people and you want to help them out, you should join the American Policyholder Association and help that team uncover insurance fraud committed by insurance companies, and then help them prosecute against them. If you're not a member, why? Why are you not a member? Don't you like policyholders? Come on. Seriously, though, if you have a claim that you think that there might be some fraud on, you can go to apassociation.org, even if you're not a member, and you could submit a a fraud investigation inquiry, and an entire team will get back to you. And if there is enough there that they believe they might be able to do something on, then they will start a full investigation. So take a look at American Policyholder Association. That's apassociation.org. And then there's Huggins Law Firm. Remington is my co-host that is on here most of the time. He wasn't able to be on here tonight, but he is the owner of Huggins Law Firm. They are located in the Southeast, and they they're studs. All right. They're great. If you don't have an attorney you're working with already that you're happy with, take a look into Remington and his team. They're damned good. I don't bullshit. I can't bullshit and have a podcast with the name of Listen to This Bull, because then people would think I'm bullshit, and that's just not cool. So got a reputation to uphold, guys. Eric, thanks for being on. We went a little bit over time, but your program is awesome. I think we got a full comprehensive list of what's there. I know there's a lot more coming, and we can give some updates along the way, but hopefully you guys understand what kind of things you need to be tracking. And there's a good example of a CRM that allows you to do that. And if they want to sign up, they need to go to claimtitan.com.
Certainly.
Easy enough. All right, guys.